Hey guys, it's Kevin Dog 4. Um, there are some games going on today. For some reason, when I searched on Google yesterday, I was under the impression there was only one game, and I thought that was bizarre. I found out there were more, so instead of waiting until tonight to post the NBA standings for today, I'm just going to post yesterday's, because I'll be up all night if I wait for all the games to finish. So, here are the NBA standings from December 5th, 2016. So the Eastern Conference is where I'm going to start. Let me get a color here. Go. Okay, so I'm going to break it down by division first, and then I'll break it down by conference. So starting with the Atlantic Conference, Toronto's in the lead. These two columns here you don't have to look at. These are just the results from yesterday's games. I copied it straight off an Excel file, so that's why they're there. Toronto is leading the division. They have 14 wins and 7 losses. I don't know if this was where I did it last time, but in either my last NFL standings video or NBA standings video, I used this format. And if it was the NBA, then I for sure had games played and games remaining. If it's NFL, then I don't have a games remaining column. But anyways, so here's where you can see how many games have been played. Toronto has played 21, which is the second most, I guess third most if you count the tie. Third most out of any team in the conference. They have a 66%, or 67% if you want to round, 67% winning percentage. They're on top of the division. Boston's 2 back of them, New York 2.5, and that's kind of where the cut is for this division as of right now. Brooklyn is 8.5 games back, so a big jump there. 6 games between New York and Brooklyn in the 3 and 4 seeds, and then 10 games back for Philadelphia. So that's your Atlantic Division. Central Division, Cleveland is still in the lead. They're 14-5, 74% win percentage. They have played 19 games, which is tied for the lowest out of the conference. They are in the conference. They're right ahead of Toronto, who they have now beat 3 out of 4 times already this season. So tie-breaking advantage for first. If these two teams end up tied for first at the end of the season, the advantage will go to Cleveland. So Cleveland 14-5, leading the division. They are up 3.5 games on the Chicago Bulls, 4 games on Milwaukee, 4.5 on Detroit, and 5 on Indiana. So this division is all really close. The biggest gap is between Cleveland and Chicago. All these teams are within a half of a game of each other, and even so, the gap between Cleveland and Chicago is very small. So there's your Central. Southeast, Charlotte is leading. They are 12-9 so far, 21 games. It's 21 games played. They have a 57% win percentage, and Atlanta is 2 games back of them. Charlotte is the only team in this division to have a winning record. As of right now, Atlanta is 10-12. They're 2.5 games back. Orlando's 3 games back. Washington 4 games, and Miami 4.5. So this division is actually relatively close too. Charlotte's not too many games over 500, and all these teams are within the same area. So now I'll just erase all of this so you can see, and I'll do conference standings. Let's change colors. Let's go. Okay, so the Eastern Conference is currently being led by Cleveland. They are number 1, 14-5, 74% win percentage. That is not the highest in the NBA. It's close, but it's not the highest. There are a couple Western Conference teams that have a better record than they do. Toronto comes in at number 2, and as I said earlier, the tiebreak will go to Cleveland at the end of the season if there is a tie at the end of the season, because Cleveland is playing Toronto 4 times this year, and they have won the first 3 meetings. So no matter what happens, Toronto cannot gain advantage over Cleveland in a possible tiebreak. So I'm going to right here, I'll just say 1 is Cleveland and 2 is Toronto. Number 3, let's see what we have here. Number 3 is, there's a tie for 3rd place. but there are some tie-breaking rules. So Charlotte and Boston have the same record. They're 12-9. They are in different divisions. Boston's right here, and Charlotte's right here. So the first tiebreaker, if the season were to end today, the first tiebreaker would be the division winner. And as we can see, Boston is number 2 in their division, and Charlotte is number 1 in their division. So that would give Charlotte the automatic tiebreaker. That would put them at number 3 and Boston at 4. So that puts Charlotte and 4 would be Boston. So there's your first 4 teams. 8 teams from each conference make the playoffs, and the system of the way that goes, it used to be that the division winners would automatically be in, but now it's just the top 8 teams from any division. Doesn't matter if you're a division winner or not, you can be in the playoffs. So those are 3 and 4. Number 5 is New York, the Knicks, right here. So that would make 3 Atlantic Division teams in the playoffs right there. Number 6 is Chicago. New York and Chicago are actually tied, and the tie-breaking procedure for that would also start with division winner. Since both of these teams, neither of them are number 1. Chicago is 2, and New York is 3. So that would move it on to the next tiebreaker, which would be head-to-head matchups. And the head-to-head matchups, there was one so far this season between the Knicks and Bulls. The Knicks won at 117-104. That gives them the 1-0 season series advantage. So that would give New York the tiebreaker. So that's how they won that. So that puts number 5 is New York, and number 6 is Chicago. I'm sorry, it's sloppy. It's really hard to write on the screen. Number 7 is Milwaukee, right here. 10-9 record, and number 8 is Detroit, 11-11. So they are exactly at 500. So that rounds out your top 8. 7 Milwaukee, and 8 is Detroit. Whoa. Okay, top 8. So that would be your playoff line right there. You can see 3 teams from the Atlantic, 4 teams from the Central, and 1 team from the Southeast. So every division has a representative, but the Central Division would be completely dominant in this case if the playoffs began today, because they have 4 of the 8 Eastern Conference playoff teams. So now let's go to 9 through 15. I'm going to change my color so you can see who is in and who is not. Number 9 would be Indiana. They are half a game behind Detroit, so they're half a game out of that 8th playoff spot. So I'm going to circle that. That's the 8th playoff spot right there. Indiana's right out of it. Atlanta is number 10. They're second in their division. 10-12 record. Orlando is number 11, 9-12 record. And Washington, number 12, 7-12 record. Miami, number 13, 7-13 record. And then Brooklyn is 5-15, and Philadelphia is 4-17. Those are the 14 and 15 teams. So the concern with Philadelphia and Brooklyn, especially these teams that are not in the playoffs right now, the ones that are really concerning are these two, especially because they're 25% and under. The ones that are in the 40% range really aren't too far out of it. Indiana is a half of a game out of it, and how many games is Atlanta out of it? Atlanta is a half a game behind Indiana, so 1 game out of the spot. And then Orlando, half a game behind. Half a game behind Atlanta, so that would put them a game and a half out, I think, if I'm calculating that right in my head. So these teams right here, they really aren't doing too bad. They're only like a half of a game out. But once you get down here, that's 2.5 games. That's 3 games. And then these teams, they're just way, way, way down. So these 2 teams are going to need to pull it together if they want to come up and have a somewhat they're gonna have to pull up, or it's gonna be harder for them later because the more games they lose, the bigger the gap gets. They're gonna need to close the gap. That's what I was trying to say. And Indiana's okay; they're right there. Atlanta, Orlando, they're pretty close as well. They're not that far behind them. These two teams need to start thinking about their record as well. 5 games or 2.5 games, I don't know, but 5-game difference between their wins and losses here. 6 games here. So there you go. So I'll write these up here. 9 Indiana, 10 Atlanta, 11 Orlando, 12 is Washington, 13 Miami, 14 Brooklyn, and 15 Philadelphia. So those are your So those are your 15 teams. I'm sorry, it's sloppy. I will leave it there. You can pause the video if you want to take a closer look at all these scribbles, or if you just don't want to look at the scribbles and actually want to look at the standings, I will erase this for you. You can pause the video right here. I'm going to move on to the Western Conference now. Okay, so the Western Conference, I have this figured out based on tiebreakers as well. I'm going to go by division first, so I'll start with the Pacific. Let's change my color. Let's go yellow again. So the Warriors are leading the division and the NBA in win percentage, number 1 in the whole league. 18-3 record, really good. 85%, 86% actually. So the Clippers are 2.5 games behind them. 16-6 record. Also doing very well this year. Lakers, there's a significant drop here. You go from 2.5 games to 9 games between the Lakers and Clippers. So the Lakers are 10-13. It seems like they've won more games than that, but that's because they didn't win hardly anything last year, and already they're on track to smother that record from last year. They're looking much better this year. Despite their record, and they could definitely climb back up. They're at 43% win percentage. Sacramento is 7-13, and Phoenix is at the bottom of the division, 6-14 record. And Sacramento is 10.5 games back, and Phoenix is 11.5 games back. So now let's go to the Southwest. San Antonio, they lead. They are 17-4, and if you look at Golden State's record, they're 18-3. They're 17-4 here, so there is a 1-game difference between Golden State and San Antonio. So San Antonio has been quiet in what they've been doing, and they've been winning a lot of games. And Golden State, they may seem like they're doing much better than San Antonio, but San Antonio, just like last year, is having an incredible season to start out with. 81% on the winning percentage. Houston is 3 games back of them, 14-7. Memphis 3.5 games back, and then the big gap comes here again between Memphis and New Orleans. 10.5 games back for the Pelicans. They are 7-15, and Dallas rounds out the bottom of the standings. They're 4-16. I don't know. 4-16, 4-17. So Philadelphia right now has the worst record in the NBA. They're only a half of a game ahead of the Dallas Mavericks. So that's a team that I didn't expect to be doing this poorly to start out the season. They could turn it around, but as of right now, the team's just looking fairly old. I mean, Dirk Nowitzki's had some injuries. Andrew Bogut has an injury right now. JJ Barea's out for several weeks. Injury-plagued team. Lots of veterans on the team. Also, lots of young players. I don't really know what happened in there this year. But Northwest Division, Oklahoma City leads that. They're 14-8. Utah's only 1 game behind them. They're 13-9. Portland is 12-10, 1 game behind Utah, 2 games behind Oklahoma City. Denver, 8-13, 5.5 games back, and Minnesota 7 games back with a record of 6-14. So with the Northwest Division, I mean, these three teams are all really close. There's a slight gap between these two, but nothing that they can't handle. They can come back if they go on a winning streak. They just got to change this record from losing to winning. They're fine. So let me erase this. Maybe. And let's go by conference now. So, as I said earlier, the Warriors are number 1. 18-3 record. Looking very good so far. Number 2, San Antonio, just 1 game behind them, 17-4 record. Number 3, that would be the Clippers. They started out, they had the best record in the league for a while, until they lost a few games in a row, and Golden State took that spot from them. But they're still looking very strong this year. They've had some good wins. They've just lost a few as of late, but then again, you can't go throughout an entire season without losing sometimes. So we'll see what happens with that division. Number 4 is Houston, a team I did not expect to do very well this season, but they are completely above what my expectation was. Looking good, 14-7. Number 5, this was a tiebreaker, 14-8. Memphis and Oklahoma City are tied, so I'll go through that tiebreaker with you. Memphis and Oklahoma City, you go with the division winner first. Memphis is number 3 in the Southwest Division. Oklahoma City is number 1 in the Northwest Division. That would give Oklahoma City the tiebreaker if the season were to end today. So Oklahoma City's number 5. Memphis comes in at number 6. So let me mark these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so number 7 is Utah. 7, Utah. And number 8 is Portland. So Utah is 13-9 and Portland is 12-10. So those are your top 8 in the playoff spots. And let's go to 9 through 16, where the other teams are as of right now. Let's see who's anywhere remotely close to coming back to gain a playoff spot. Okay, so that's covering up the lettering. I'm sorry, I'm assuming you're not going to look at that. But number 9, the jump between Portland and Los Angeles is very significant. So as of right now, Detroit and Indiana in the Eastern Conference, they are very close, but Detroit is the final team in the Eastern Conference with a winning record. That is also the case in the Western Conference, but the gap is much larger. Portland is 12-10, and Los Angeles is 10-13. So that makes a very significant gap, but that puts the Lakers at number 9. So Lakers come in at number 9. They do have a couple injuries right now. D'Angelo Russell, for sure. I think Nick Young might have an injury, or at least did at one point in the last couple weeks. So there's injuries, and Jose Calderon is now out too. So the injuries are not helping the Lakers. But once those guys come back, especially Russell, things can change for them again, and they can end up winning more games, although they have been doing pretty well this season. So number 9, Lakers. Number 10 is Denver. They have a record of 8-13. Let's see, where does that compare to Los Angeles? That's 1 game behind. Los Angeles has won 2 more games, but they had the same in the losing column, so that's 1 game back for them. Sacramento's half a game back of Denver. They are 7-13. So Sacramento, although they do show some promise in their young players, their record still is not great to start off the season, but they have won a few pretty decent games. New Orleans is 7-15. They started out really slow. It took almost 10 games for them to win 1. So New Orleans comes in at 12, although they have rebounded big time. So we'll see what happens if they can keep climbing up that win column. Minnesota and Phoenix are tied for 13-14. So the tiebreaker here, division winner. Neither of them are the division leaders right now. They are both number 5 in their respective divisions, so that moves us to head-to-head. They have played one game against each other this season. Minnesota won 98-85. They have taken the division or the season series. I don't know if they're playing each other again, but as of right now, they're leading the season series 1-0. That gives Minnesota the number 13 spot. So Minnesota here, that's an N. And then Phoenix here. So 13, 14, and Dallas brings up the rear in 15th. And once again, players are getting old. They are 4-16, by the way. Players are getting old. Many injuries on the team to start off the season, and they also have a lot of young players as well. So you have lots of very, very young players and lots of veterans, and there's not a whole lot of people in between. And you have the injuries, and JJ Barea is one of the big ones there. Dirk Nowitzki's been injured this season. I don't need this 16. I don't know why I drew that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. What's this do? Okay, cool. So leave a comment below on what else you'd like to see in this video, or in these videos. And also make sure you subscribe to my channel for more sports videos. And I will see you in my next video. And by the way, that should be coming tomorrow. That will be an NFL standings video. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video.